Hey guys, it is Tim with Tabletop Terrors, and this is Daily Damage. It is a weekday live stream on Facebook that I try to put onto YouTube the same day. I'm going to start trying to put them on there the same day. Basically, go home, drop them onto YouTube, and I'm going to try to have them post like 8 a.m. the next day for anybody who just couldn't watch and is interested. What's up, Steven? Steven already joined us. So, if you are new to Daily Damage, I just talk about what's kind of on my mind, and I always start with something called the Rundown. The Rundown is an opportunity to just kind of, for us to talk to you about what you should check out this week, what you should go, watch, click on, experience, and it's a really good way to talk about something while the stream is sharing to Facebook. So, here is this week's Rundown. The first thing I want to hit you up with in the rundown is 5 Crit Friday. If you don't know what 5 Crit Friday is, it is an e-newsletter that James and I send out every Friday. Most Fridays. Here's the thing. It's not spammy stuff about like, watch this thing of ours and do this and so on. It's 5 things that inspired us. So it's about other people. So we like to share with you what it is that's inspiring us. So sign up for 5 Crit Friday. You can do it on this video. I think I'm going to do the card right up here, or like one of the bubbles. Something around here will probably let you sign up for 5 Crit Friday. But the idea is that we'll never spam you. And something that we're thinking about is, and this is all free, there's no charge or anything for this. Something that we're thinking about is just to the people on the email list, doing the occasional hangout where it's like, hey, we'll invite people on the list. Like, hey, would you like to do a hangout and talk about your games or ask, me and James questions? So the only way to be a part of that is to be a part of 5 Crit Friday and be on that email list. That's what we're kind of thinking. Again, no charge for any of it. It's just, it's really for the people who are interested in being inspired by what we're inspired by and being a part of what Tabletop Terrors is doing specifically. Something else I want to have you do, and I want you to do this right now. I want you to do it in another tab while we're talking. I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to find the Be a Better Game Master Facebook. Nope, I always do that. Gosh, I'm the worst streamer. The Be a Better Game Master YouTube channel. Barker, one of my best friends in the whole world, is doing this series where he is playing computer strategy games, and he is narrating it, giving you, I think, a really good balance of sort of what he's doing in the game, but he's also giving you this peripheral history of what's going on, and these strategy games allow you to create alternate, like, fractal timelines, and he does a really good job of explaining, well, here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to marry off my sister to France so that I can create this alliance. And let me tell you what this series is doing for me. It's instant world building. It's like historical what if. And it's like, dude, it's so cool to say, oh, well, if I married off my sister to France, well, then what if they went to war? Well, now I would have a vested interest in going to war because my sister's, and it's just like, boom, I just started having all these different thoughts. So let's check the chat. Drake Warren is here. Carl Bolthouse is here. Carl is making some of the most incredible recaps of games that I play in. He's doing these like 5-minute recaps. He did one for the Provokers and he did one for Sir Celine, and I love them. And so if you're looking for an opportunity to catch up on some of the campaigns that we're running, that's a really good way to do it. So Carl, great work, man. Circo is here. What's up, man? Circo asked a question that I'm actually going to hit on tomorrow. I'm going to talk about how to introduce kids to tabletop RPGs, which I think is cool. But one final thing in the rundown, as the stream continues to share, I'm trying to keep the camera from over here because it's like this white heaven's gate. Heaven, I don't know why I stuttered. Heavens. One other thing I want to tell you about. A Fistful of Dice. Matt Click. You got to check out his channel. Dude's been putting out a slew of videos lately. My favorite of which are his DM Forge videos. Now, he's got plenty of these videos, but this last string of DM Forge videos they're punchy, they're potent, they're short, and you can immediately apply them. He just posted a video today about how you can quickly basically come up with an NPC on the fly and like fake it. And so that was like, I was like, oh my God, that's so simple. It was like 5 minutes or less, and it immediately gives you an opportunity to say, hey, I can fudge this NPC and for it to have some sort of direction. So that's awesome. I get notifications right up here on the top of my phone, and already 3 people signed up for the 5 Crit Friday. So awesome. If you want to do that now, you can go to tabletopterrors.com, and it's in the sidebar on the left-hand side. Dustin is with us. What's up, man? Carl, you're very welcome. Carl says, thank you, Tim. Aaron Brown says, hey, Tim, cannot wait for the next Dragon Grin session. Actually, this is probably a good time to mention it. Bad news, one of the members of the group had a family emergency. It was actually a death in the family and is having to travel. And so, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to play this coming Saturday in the Dragon Grin game. I'm going to go ahead and post that now. I wanted to wait until we got the date, and I believe everyone filled out the doodle yesterday and has that all done. So I'm going to schedule the game, the new session, off of the old invite and change the date and everything, but I just want to let everybody know that. So Steven says, I'm so behind on vids lately. Life is a fickle taskmaster. These afternoons just happen to come in at a good time in my day, so I prep for the gym. Dude, that's perfect. You know, we've got afternoons going on at Absolute Tabletop. We've got daily damage going on at Tabletop Terrors. And I even, like, Alan Holloway has been running some stuff on his Facebook, just kind of giving you some tips and tricks. So a lot of great streams in the Absolute Tabletop community. I am going to jump in because I realize that I have tarried long. So I made some notes. I'm going to talk to you about what my main issue is with Orcs. And the first thing I want to kind of lead off with is that I realized last night, I came to the realization that there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I'm like, I have just enough peripheral knowledge to know about something. Like, this is a great example is, like, have you ever used a word for a long, period of time only to find out that the exact definition, you're right, you haven't been using it wrong, but you're just shy of the exact definition. And so it's like, you're like, oh, I've used this word through context alone. I've never actually learned the definition. And to me, I feel like there's a lot of that going on with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Do I know a lot of the rules for D&D 5e? Sorta. Why the heck would I take advice from you, Tim? Well, first of all, because I don't think you need to know the rules to have a great time. But second of all, because I think if it's one thing James and I are, it's dedicated to figuring it out. And one of the things we try to do is figure it out with you together. And so last night, I was looking at Orcs, and I'm telling you, I've never realized this. I just learned last night that Orcs aren't goblinoids. Is anybody else, is this news to anybody else? To me, I always just thought it was goblins, orcs, and then hobgoblins were kind of on the same level. Like, they're, just hobgoblins are more militant, a little hairier. And then there's bugbears, which are the biggest, most brutish of them all. No, turns out orcs are just their own, humanoids. Now, I know that Tolkien's orcs and the way that they kind of tie to the elves and so on is very different from the way that D&D does it in a lot of ways. So I did a little research. I checked out Professor Wikipedia. And so here's my issue with orcs. My issue is that I think that they should be goblinoids. Now, I could be way off, and I don't think that making them goblinoids would be wrong. And maybe I'm wrong about the fact that they're not goblinoids, but I always thought goblins were smallish orcs. Just the same way that, I don't know. So, here's what I was going to kind of do. Well, first let me check the chat, and then I'm going to go to some of my notes, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about J.R.R. Tolkien, what I think he did well, and why I think orcs can be whatever you want them to be. So let's see here. Plenty of people cooking in this chat. What is going on? Jorge Ruiz says, subscribe to the newsletter. Saying hi from Argentina. What's up, man? You guys, listen to me. Argentina are some of the heaviest metalers. They are so metal in Argentina. You guys, like, come out, the nation goes and sees a concert when you're in Argentina. It's like, it's serious. So I love that you're hopping in. You're so metal, and that was my little foolish ramblings about Argentina. Chris Wilhelm says, I am not a robot. Circo says, tabletopterrors.com is throwing an error. Recipient has too many recent sign-up requests. Oh, Chris Wilhelm says, just fill it out. It works anyway. I'll look into that. James is really good at fixing that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's something I did wrong. Flat out. Straight up. Mike Lasham is here. Circo, yeah, it worked. So he signed up for 5 Crit Friday. Dude, you guys are blowing it up. My notifications are going bzz, 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 bzz. The list is going to double by today. Chris Wilhelm says, literally, every white chick ever. Drake Warren says he never thought they were. So you never thought that orcs were goblinoids? I just assumed because of the green skin, the facial features. I think that's what also threw me, is that you've got bugbears and hobgoblins who are hairy. They're hairy. They have a very bearish sort of like lupine or ursine look. And so I've always just like, oh yeah, okay. I've always kind of hand waved that. That's not a problem. But I thought orcs were in there. I don't know. That's just me. Jack Pert is here. Matthew Knapp is here. Awesome sculptor, Matthew Knapp. Okay, so Stephen Back says, in Dragonlance, orcs and elves tied in too. So I've always had that link since Dragonlance was my original into D&D. The elves and the orcs tied into Tolkien is also probably how a lot of people got grandfathered into that mythology and that way of thinking. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's really cool to see a twisted form of a beautiful race as a sub-race or a different race. That's interesting to me. Jorge says, you know how this works. Just make them goblinoids in your game. And honestly, that's what I'm considering doing. That is exactly what I'm considering doing, is kind of tying all those monstrous humanoids together. Because it makes sense to me canonically that the orcs and the goblins and the hobgoblins and the bugbears would almost have a society. You know what a good thing to parallel them with in my mind that's always just kind of existed would be like giants. The giants in like say even 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons does a really good job where you've got you know, there's the storm giants, then you've got, and so like the fire giants are like warmongers, the hill giants are kind of just like stupid gluttons, and it's like, to me, having all these multiple types of it's like the orcs would be more brutish and brutal and primal. The hobgoblins would be a more refined, tactical yet warmongering race. So keeping their traits that are sort of built into their races already, but allowing them to sort of be different facets of this same monstrous culture. I don't know. That just kind of interested me. And when I found out that orcs weren't goblinoids, I was like, first of all, my life is a lie. What am I doing making videos? I don't know anything about D&D. And then the second thing was, is this an opportunity to create something unique for our campaign world of Dragon Grin? And would it upend something so far that people would say, what? No, that's stupid. Just let orcs be orcs. So Chris Wilhelm says, the Dragonlance true ogres became elves, orcs, and the common ogre. Oh, interesting. BJ Hall, it's the ears. That's how you know it's a goblin. Stephen Back is agreeing with what Chris said about Dragonlance. Jonathan Ank is here. What's up, man? Jorge Ruiz, talking about the heavy metal comments, says, dude, thanks. If you'd like, I can send a link for my band album. Dude, absolutely. Yeah, send a link for your band's album. Yeah, do that. I will crank it, my dude. All right. Oh, so Chris Wilhelm's talking about how ogres are more tied into that. Now, in Dragonlance. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing. See, to me, ogres and trolls sort of share that lineage with giants. They're kind of all in that same, like, and maybe that's like the Norse, or at least Nordic kind of thought process, you know, that I have, but I don't know. So it says that in Dragonlance, they're also very beautiful and intelligent, making the elves look like children. Oh, that's interesting. Caleb Christian Sherrill says, I have a bestiary for Tolkien's works, and it says that they're the same thing. But I did know that they're separate in D&D. So that sort of brings me to the research that I want to do here. Well, that I did. And listen, I did what 96.3% of Americans do. Did you know that 38% of all statistics I just said are made up? No, but I did what a lot of people do. I checked Wikipedia, and I just said, all right, here's what we're going to do. So I looked, and I was really inspired about what Tolkien did. Because Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, Grandpa Tolkien, author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, arguably the most seminal fantasy work ever. Perhaps even beyond Beowulf, but we'll get to that. What he did is he was inspired by something else and then made it his own. I think I'm guilty of thinking, well, Tolkien was, he was an originator. He just had so many original ideas, and he did. He absolutely did. And I don't want to argue that. But one of the things I looked at, according to Professor Wikipedia, who, take that with a, grain of salt.net. So apparently, Tolkien, looked at the Old English, which appears in the epic poem Beowulf, and refers to one of the races who were called the offspring of Cain during the initial description of Grendel. I'm not even going to try to read it. Yes, I am. That makes for fun videos. Tanon utrendas eele awakan oetanes old yilfi under orconas. In a letter in 1954, Tolkien basically said that his orcs are sort of demons, and he claimed that he used the words because of their phonetic suitability. Tolkien thought that the word orc sounded cool, and he saw it in a work that he respected, so he took the concept, as it was mentioned in passing, and created something for his own world. And if that isn't just an example that the human condition, as dungeon masters, as players, hasn't changed, even since the time of Tolkien, that our tools maybe have changed, but in the way that we are executing things, the way that we're inspired, that hasn't changed. I was really intrigued by that, and it actually kind of lifted my spirits for some reason. So anyway, he basically says, Tolkien gives the meaning of orc as evil spirit or bogey, and basically says that the origin of the Old English word was from the Latin name Orcus, god of the underworld. So, super cool to me. And I thought, you know what? Tolkien read Beowulf, heard that word, and he said, no, my orcs are this. And now I am thinking about Tolkien and Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm like, no, but my orcs are this. And so I was just kind of inspired by that. I thought that was kind of cool. So now we're going to hit the chat. Gavin Xavier Christensen Burgess, did I say that right? He says, I like what Warcraft did with orcs, where they're peaceful people who have been corrupted by demons, gave them a lot of character and plot elements that made them very human, but not at all. I really like that too. I'm actually one of the people that had a good time watching the Warcraft movie. I'm not saying it's a solid piece of standalone, earth-breaking cinema, but I enjoyed watching the movie as a Warcraft player, and I think that that's one thing that they highlighted pretty well was how the Fel operated and how the orcs of using Fel magic were, as opposed to the ones who weren't. So I think that they did well with that in the movie. Stephen Back says, the Erda, I believe what they're called. Matthew Knapp says, in Lord of the Rings, they bred orcs with goblins. They have to be close enough to breed. That's true, too. So you've got, that whole sort of breeding, I don't even know what you'd call it, orc husbandry. That is a 3rd edition skill you can take. I'm just kidding. I have 25 ranks in used rope and 55 ranks in orc husbandry. Chris Wilhelm says, make a common progenitor for those races. That's what I'm thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And in fact, I'm thinking that they would have come from the primordials. And I think that they would have been less bestial, but in the time that they've spent. See, all the monstrous humanoids in Dragon Grin are in a location called Uldane, which is furthest bleakward. So they're just constantly exposed to the bleak. And I like to think that over centuries, they have become more and more bestial and monstrous. And that's where the monstrous humanoids come from in Dragon Grin, is basically being poisoned by this arcane bleak for so long. That's kind of what you get. Brian Catalano joined. What's up? D20+1 says, if you feel so inclined to watch the 5-minute recap later. Oh, sweet. Good call. He posted it. Also, if you have any games you want summarized, drop me a comment. Thanks. So let me throw my name in the hat. Like, post haste. There's 2 Dragon Grin games up, and I would love some recaps of those. That would be sick. So, and forgive me if you already made them and I didn't see them. I must have missed them if you did. So, but that would be rad. There's 2 Dragon Grin games up on the Tabletop Terrors channel. That would be sick. Caitlin Doherty joined. My sister-in-law, my brother Matt. We've been having some conversations lately about I want to get him on video like I did with my mom, because my brother Matt and I have read comic books since we were super young, and I would drive him around in my car and not turn the air on because it cost too much gas. Anyway, so you might be seeing some of my other brothers. Yes, I have other brothers. I have 2 other brothers, Thomas and Matt, in addition to James. We wanted to do something, if we can get all of us in the same room, we wanted to do something where we put like a Yeti mic in the middle of the room, maybe a couple boom mics, and just sit there and just have conversations and learn stuff. I think it would be cool to call it like Tabletop Terrors, Family Game Night. Eventually, I'd love to get everyone, my mom, my brothers, my dad, and just show you what my life was like playing D&D before online gaming. I think that would be a blast. Jonathan Ank says, howdy, enjoying the last day of freedom before returning to work. Oh, man. You on vacation, bud? That's awesome. Thanks for spending it here with me. Chris Willem says, Tim, not related, but what kind of watch do you have? I've been looking for a fossil watch like that for everyday wear. I only have fancy watches left. So this is a fossil. I will say this. I have a collection of probably 7 fossil watches. And all of them they don't make anymore. And it makes me really sad. Side tangent here. We went to the fossil outlets here in Florida, and all of them, I just super jumped the shark for me. The faces are enormous, but not square like this. So there's these huge round faces, and I don't know, they just weren't my flavor. So honestly, what I would do, I'm giving you my trade secrets here, this is how I get mine, is I would try to find used ones on Amazon. And that's risky, but you can also go to eBay. Just make sure they work. Most watchmakers will work on fossils because they're pretty well made. So even though they're like $80 watches, they're pretty easy to work on. So you can get them tweaked and repaired and have the batteries replaced for like $5-10 at a watchmaker. So that would be my suggestion, is eBay and Amazon. Now I'm gonna know if I'm bidding against Drop Dice 99. I'm gonna know it's you, Wilhelm. D20+1 says, Tim summons a demon accidentally. Wouldn't be the first time. Circo says, impressive. Chris Wilhelm says, the Volsung saga inspired The Ring and Smaug. See? It's perfect. It's Tolkien drew from the things that inspired him. I think it's part of the human condition. I think it's part of our nature. Matthew Farmer's here. Hello. BJ Hall says, are orcs evil because it's their nature or evil because their environment? Is killing a bunch of orcs a genocide, or is it a favor to the rest of the world? That is exactly the kind of social question that I would like to raise in my game and let the players answer with me. I'm a fan of asking questions and not giving one answer, because that's how real life is. I think, to me, here's the line you cross. If a game or a movie or a book gets preachy, it's, here's the question, here's the problem. Oh, and then here's the answer. That's not how life works. Life works as, here's the question, here's the problem. Now, here are a few viewpoints. You decide what the answer is. So I think that's actually a really good thing. In fact, that you might see some themes like that in Innis, one of the neutral zones, where the orcs are allowed to sort of run rampant. So that's kind of cool. What's up, Spencer? Spencer Shields has joined the chat. Stephen Back says, I could never wear a watch back when they were useful, before cell phones. You know what a watch is great for? I'm in a lot of meetings, and you can glance at your watch and know what time it is without looking at your phone. So that's really why. And they look cool. I like the way a watch looks. And I do. I catch myself checking, like, okay, boom, I can just look at my wrist real quick, because I typically keep my phone in my pocket at work. Johannes says, hey, just came in from my Burning Wheel game. What's up, dude? Yeah, sick. So many magical shenanigans, I bet. Transmuting lightning storms and accidental summonings that led to a religious upheaval. Whoo, boy. That's awesome, man. That sounds really sick. Chris Wilhelm says, we did a campaign where the question of it was, do we really need elves in the world? It was a mess, to be honest. Very World War II feeling. Yeah, man, and that's it. And it's one of those things where asking a big question like that is cool because it can be going on in the background while you're asking smaller questions and having personal plots. So a campaign arc, to me, is huge opener, like, whoa, here's the big problem that faces the whole world. Drill way down, and you're going to see this in the Dragon Green campaign. Drill way down, and then it's like, okay, where am I going to find food today? Like, yep, that was terrible yesterday. It was awful what happened, but I have to find a place to sleep. People are looking for me. I have to find a place to lay low for a little while. It's like that kind of, okay, what are my personal problems? How am I affected by the things that are going on in the world? What are my responsibilities? Then, about midpoint, boom, big problem resurfaces its head. Oh no, the world looked like it's going to end. Then the rest of the stretch of the campaign is making it look like the heroes cannot possibly win. And then in a surprising yet inevitable way, that big problem comes back at the end, and hopefully you've hung enough of Chekhov's guns on the wall that they choose one to fire. Boom, it kills the problem, and then it falls down dead. Then the sort of falling action of, and then right at the end, the after credit scene where, hey, you shot this problem. Yes, it died, but guess what? 2 took its place. So, that was a unsolicited how to do a campaign. I don't know where that came from. Oh, it was because Chris mentioned a campaign. So, there's one more thing I want to mention in this Daily Damage. We got a lot of great comments, got a lot of great chats. If you're watching this on Facebook, thank you. It's amazing that you're spending this time with me. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go and like our Facebook page, because it's how you get the notifications that we're live and you can check us out. So, something that kind of started as a joke, but I think we're actually going to see how this goes, is James and I, and I've been talking to, some of my best friends, Matt, Barker, Cassie, Nate, and I'm like, I think we might actually try to do a Tabletop Terrors webcomic. Here's what I do know. I know that it would be absolutely not based exactly in real life. Like, I don't want it to be one of those webcomics where it's a thinly veiled version of like, oh, okay, I'm just watching what I just watched on the internet. Like, I think it would be cool if, this is me spitballing. The first thing is, I think it would be great if it was kind of wild and fantastical in a way. Think Parks and Recreation or Curb Your Enthusiasm, but meets Tabletop RPG Company. I love the idea that somehow James and I have come upon this, I don't know, maybe it's a storage shed or something, like where we inherit this storage shed. And inside of it, I think it would be really funny if it's this like box of books. And we're like, what are these books? And it's a totally finished RPG system. And we realize what we inherited is like this really cool rule set. And so it's like, oh my gosh, we could sell this. Something like that. But it turns out that the boxes themselves are somehow enchanted, or basically go the route where it's like just goofy stuff so the creatures can be walking around the offices. I want the game company to be called Teens Games, TEENSE, because I think it'd be funny if everyone mispronounced it and was like, oh yeah, it's Teensy Games, and it's like, it's Teens Games. Maybe that's the Gygax of the world is, Larry Teens or something. But I don't know, something like that, to where it's like, I would love it if one of the webcomics was like, me and James are arguing, and then I gotta argue with Larry the Yeti. I'm like, no, Freddy the Yeti. I'm like, come on, Freddy. You were supposed to have this done 3 weeks ago, and all you've been doing is playing Overwatch. Just stupid stuff like that. Now, if I just pitch that to you and you think it sounds dumb, it does. It's totally half-baked, and we have no idea exactly what we're going to do, but I thought that would be really fun. And there's a proof of concept on the Tabletop Terrors Facebook page if you want to see kind of what it would look like. We're just totally tooling around with it. But what do you think about that? I think it would be funny. I want it to be, maybe like a touch of The Simpsons, where like everything resets every episode. You know, it's not going to be dramatic. It's not going to have much of a through line or a plot. But I'd love it to just be like the day-to-day like trappings of like normal RPG and creativity problems, edition wars and stuff like that, publishing in the tabletop RPG industry, and then just like goofing off and fun gags. That's crazy. BJ Hall says, just because the old guy who gave you the quest told you these guys originated from demons doesn't mean they really were. Think about how much the average person knows about the world without telephones or TVs. That's actually a really good point. He's talking about the origins of creatures. I also think it's important in a game to make sure that you never set definitives unless they've been proven in the world. Not just because a lot of people believe them, but like you said, that it's proven, like, well, no, this is exactly what happened. People were there and they wrote it down. And even then, history is written by the victors. Historical revisionism, Michael Barker. BJ says it's crazy. Chris Wellham says beholder security guard. Exactly. And see, this is exactly, to give you an idea of kind of the humor that we would do, is that we could never call it a beholder because that's copyrighted by Wizards of the Coast. So it would be sort of meta. It'd be sort of meta in its humor. So it would be like, listen, we'd call him B or something. I don't know, something where it's like, listen, Chuck, I know, we both know what you are. We know what you're called. You gotta just let the people call you an eye beast. I'm sorry, man. We're gonna get sued. Now, if you don't mind, can you watch the door? And you see, like, obviously, that would actually be funny too, like a corridor set up, and he's got his eyes pointed and all, just stupid stuff like that. I promise we'll revise it, and it'll be better than what I just said. A lich in accounting? Exactly, Chris, that's exactly what we're talking about. Because it would be really funny to go in and go, hey, Narcon? Listen, man, I know you've been having a bad stretch. Things are rough at home with Brenda, but I really need those numbers, man. We need to know how much we can spend on Stone Canyon, our new dwarf supplement. And he's like, fine, Tim. It's about me sometimes. Narcon had a heart once. And just, again, I'm spitballing, really laying it out there. Sounded probably pretty stupid, but the idea would be that it would be funny to me to have all of that, and then the normal banter that me, Barker, Nate, Matt, Cassie, and James have in our chats, and have some of these jokes pop up. I don't know. I think it could be funny. I think it would be fun to make. Josh, take two. Josh Glisson says, be funny to use DDO or something for a machinima show. What is DDO? Tell me what DDO is, because if you're talking about some kind of cool animation software that's easy, I'm all for that. Josh says, should have the beholder in security watching a bunch of camera screens, each with an eye stalk. Exactly, stuff like that, to where it's like, I think it would be really funny and you do like offhanded jokes where it's like, well, we would have caught the thief, except, maybe his name's Paul, except, because Pixar does that. They name like these crazy, different animals, just normal names. He's like, well, we would have done that, but Paul's 6-eye stalk was asleep, wasn't it, Paul? He's like, I'm sorry, I've been marathoning Luke Cage. It's really good. Like, just stupid stuff like that. I think it would be funny. Chris Wellham says, I'm laughing too hard at Narcon had a heart once. Exactly. Josh Glisson says, D&D online. Oh, you're saying, like, use the, sort of like, Red versus Blue, where we actually use the models and, like, record it? I see what you're saying. Anyway, it's a thought. We were going to call it Roll to Stabilize, because that sounds to me like Curb Your Enthusiasm, or one of those kind of shows. But Roll to Stabilize, it'd be a webcomic by Tabletop Terrors starring Tim, James, Matt, Nate, Cassie, and Barker as alter versions of themselves running a tabletop RPG company with actual creatures and stuff like that. But keeping all that too, is it just common? Do we keep the creatures a secret? Is that a whole element? I think it'd be more funny if it was common. Like, there's some big half-orc running our con booth, stuff like that. And you don't comment on that stuff. It's just normal, But anyway, I hope that the idea came across. What are your thoughts? What do you think would be funny? What are some of your favorite webcomics that I need to check out? Obviously, there's, some of the greats. I'm a big fan of old school comic strips. I love The Far Side. I love Calvin and Hobbes. There are, a few like that where I'm like, oh man, those are really good. Big fan of Garfield. I'm kidding. That was a test. No, there's nothing wrong if you like Garfield. There's no problem with that. There's generally nothing wrong with Garfield either. I'm to the point where I'm rambling, but I thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me. Thank you for hanging out. This is always a blast. Again, this has been Daily Damage. And I just want to let you guys all know that this is one of the highlights of my day. I love hanging out. I love talking to you. Again, if you're seeing this and you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe so you can see this and other videos. If you're on Facebook, thanks for so many comments. We always get so many comments, so many viewers. Check out AbsoluteTabletop.com. There's a lot of great books. If you like any of the concepts or ideas that I've talked about, AbsoluteTabletop.com has the books that I helped to write and that James helped to write. And then you can buy their 5th edition or system agnostic supplements, and you can get them now. So thank you all. Until next time, may your dice roll high.